You've been provided with a petri dish and 2 pieces of nichrome wire. You'll see here that I put a bend in this wire so it can go over the rim of the dish. I want to make it so I have 2 parallel lines in the dish that will lie flat. So here I'm doing a little more bending here. That looks decent. You can see I have quite a bit of wire outside the dish. That's important for electrical connections. And I will secure the wires with some tape so that they lie in the dish nice and flat. This looks good. I have 2 parallel lines with some distance between them. And outside the dish I have tape as well as wire on which I can connect electrically. I've given you a 6-volt battery. On the top it labels plus and minus for the 2 poles. And I've also given you some alligator clip cords. Connect one of the wires from the negative to one of the nichromes here. When you do that, sometimes things will move in the dish. So readjust. Second wire, you can test that. That looks good. I'll disconnect my wire and fill the petri dish with the proper volume of solution. When I look here, I want the wires to be submerged. This one is a little bit out of the water at the end, but it's okay. To start the chemistry, I'll just connect right here, and reactions will begin to occur in the dish. For part 1, you're on a black background. It will help you see the chemistry more easily. And it says let the reaction go about halfway across and then disconnect. It's easiest to disconnect here on the battery. That way you have minimal disruption of your contents. I'm getting ready for part 2 now, and I'll dump this into my tin waste beaker and then I'll rinse it out in the sink. So now I've rinsed the dish. I'll reuse one of the 2 wires. Might have to retape. For part 2 you need a graphite electrode which looks like this, and you'll want to clip onto that with your alligator clip, and that should rest on the dish something like this. This is a good setup. For part 2 you use potassium iodide, and make sure your cylinder is clean. Sometimes people have not cleaned their cylinder. You get precipitates, waste material. Everything's set up. Once again, to start the chemistry, I'll make my connection. In part 2 you will develop some colors here. This is a mock reaction, so there's not any colors. But you'll also be able to do some magic writing with the graphite. So as I pull this out and I paint with it, you can see a color develops magically. So definitely want to try that. I've also provided each lab station with a small test tube. It's got this kind of Q-tip on a stick here. And this is a magic eraser for your magic writing. So have fun with this as well. Typically I use old batteries for this lab, but it's possible that you have a new battery. If you're using a brand new battery, the current will be too high. So we'll put a resistor into the circuit. This is a 10 ohm resistor, and it doesn't matter where you connect it as long as the current must flow through the resistor on its way to or from the dish. And so here I will connect that, and now the current is going through the resistor on its way to the dish, and this is a good way to make it work properly. At the end of part 2 you can dump your iodide solution down the drain. Goes back to the ocean where the iodide originally came from. Rinse off your nichrome wires and your graphite electrode, and then dry them up with a paper towel so they're ready for the next class.